Well, this is Business in Nigeria. We have to leave you now, but we cannot do that without bringing you up to speed with developments and updates from around the world. And we begin in Asia, where shares rose today, buoyed by a pullback in the dollar and hopes for a stimulus from Beijing, while markets digested hawkish comments from the U.S. Federal Reserve and Chief and the European Central Bank on the rate hike path ahead. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan rose at 1.4%, driven by a 2.5% jump in Hong Kong's Seng index and a 1.2% advance in China's blue chips, as the Asian index headed for a small dip of 0.2% for the week, while Japan's Nikkei gained 0.6%. And cautious optimism is set to continue in the European markets, with the region-wide Euro Stoxx 50 futures up to 0.3%, German DAX futures rising at 0.2%, and FTSE futures at 0.4% higher. Wall Street's main indexes posted modest gains after heavy selling earlier in the week. S&P 500 futures rose at 0.5%, and Nasdaq futures were up at 0.7%. And of course, in a sign of improved risk appetite as markets stabilized. Meanwhile, Bitcoin surged past the $20,000 barrier and was eyeing its best day in 6 weeks today, as the US dollar fell broadly and markets found reasons to be cheerful at the end of a dull week. Now, Bitcoin, the biggest cryptocurrency by market value, rose more than 7% of $20,796, a 2-week high. Either the second highest rose 5% to also hit a 2-week peak at $1,717. Bitcoin had been as low as $18,540 on Wednesday. Market participants say there was no particular trigger for the gains beyond a broad upbeat mood in evidence across asset classes today, led by a drop in the safe haven dollar and a rally in Chinese stocks. Now, if the cryptocurrencies can hold their gains until Sunday's close, Bitcoin could log a second weekly rise in a row and its best week in about 1 month. In Europe, France and Germany have pledged to act together to protect households and companies from soaring energy prices, while also using fiscal policy to fight record high inflation. French finance minister and his German counterpart made a show of unity at the start of talks for Eurozone finance ministers in Prague, telling reporters they will cooperate on policies. The pledge is coming a day after the European Central Bank raised its key interest rate by an unprecedented 75 basis points and promised further hikes, prioritizing the fight against inflation even as the bloc is likely heading towards a winter recession and gas rationing. France, Germany, and other countries have announced multi-billion euro packages to help business and consumers cope with soaring inflation, as the Bruegel think tank estimates that the EU government support has already reached 282 billion euros, with more on the way. Let's wrap things off now, as oil prices on the international market rose today, supported by real and threatened cuts to supply, although crude was set for a second weekly decline as aggressive interest rate hikes and China's COVID-19 curbs weighed on the demand outlook. Russian President Mr. Vladimir Putin has threatened to halt oil and gas exports to Europe if price caps are imposed, and a small cut to OPEC Plus oil outputs plans announced this week also supported prices. U.S. West Texas intermediate crude now sells at $84.97 per barrel, with an uptick price of 1.71%. Brent crude records a 1.84% surge in price, selling at $90.79 per barrel. Bonnie Light sells at $90.67 per barrel, with a price drop of 0.68%. And for the OPEC basket, offers the price at $95.96 per barrel, with a price decline of 3.89%.